right, thank you very much everyone for joining for the RSA Architecture Urban Planning group launch. It's a historical one, I hope. So some words about the RSA. As some of you probably know, the RSA is a 270-year-old social change organization with over 31,000 fellows. And it's not only about arts, it's also about manufactures and commerce. And we're addressing in this group multiple aspects. You might be familiar with this number or not, but this is a very important number. This is $125 trillion per year is the global value of ecosystem services. And why is this important? Because 60% of the factors influencing our health are determined by the environment. So environments determine behavior, and behavior determines health. And it's another aspect. Making design humanized and harmonized is important for mental well-being, even from a very young age. Kids prefer fractal patterns, kids prefer discovery. And it's a matter of having a choice of making environment something that is in line with our human needs, biology, and harmonized integration with the environment, or going the other way. And our brain is actually exploring places and memorizing and learning in the same areas. We have some fellows in neuroscience joining us today as well, but what is a very important takeaway is our mind, our decisions are influenced by the places. So that's why architecture and urban planning are so important. The spirit of this group is linked with the Great Exhibition in 1851. What happened back then was people from all around the world came to Crystal Palace and started discussing and exploring ideas and showcasing some great innovations. It was an important moment in the history of mankind when bringing all those people together from multiple walks of life, engineers, inventors, architects, planners. Those cross-pollination opportunities are always having an historical impact, and we hope this group will have the same. We don't know where this can lead, so we're looking forward to see what's happening in the future. So the principles of this group are making places healthy, humanized, and harmonized. And for that, we have a stellar lineup of speakers today. I'm also very delighted to introduce you to the first speaker, Paulette McAllister. Paulette is founder and managing director of Joseph Hardy and Company, a collective of experts supporting both public and private sectors across the built environment. Originally graduating in design from Chelsea School of Art, her passion for heritage is embedded in her specialist area of expertise, conservation-led regeneration. Paulette, you have the floor.
Wow, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Give me a little nod. I do have some notes. I have notes because I tend to get overexcited when I talk about heritage. I know you probably didn't think you'd hear the word excitement and heritage in the same sentence, but there you have it. Can I click onto the first slide, please? Yes. Just get my heritage. There we go. Okay, so it's great to be here, though, in RSA House, because this actually is a building that is very special to me. I came here first time when I was 18, a very long time ago, entering the student design competition. Didn't get shortlisted, but I'm not bitter. So I have had the privilege of being immersed in heritage for so many years. I absolutely love heritage, and I'm really glad to see that it's getting more of a seat at the table in my professional world. Because it is so important, and it runs through these three pillars that we're talking about today. There remains so much to be done. I don't expect what I'm going to say to you today is going to end up as a paragraph in the National Planning Policy Framework, but I hope today I can share some inspiration in terms of what I want to see heritage being able to bring to this group. I was thinking in the run-up, how could I excite you? How could I get your attention? I thought, do I share with them about coastal erosion and the risk of heritage assets falling into the sea? That's a bit dramatic. Do I talk about how to identify a medieval brothel in mid-Essex? Yes, it's a good one. It's a good story. But I'll save that for another time. But those of you who know me know I love a good story. And I also love a really good old film as well. So this is one of my favourite directors. I'm sure you all recognise who I've got on the screen. Do shout out. Maybe not. Yay, thank you. So I thought, well, to connect to you how I see the kind of concept for heritage being embedded in place, I just want to remind you all of the concept that Hitchcock made famous. And of course, that is the MacGuffin. You can use it as a tool to embed heritage, and it's something that I practice myself. So what is a MacGuffin? Well, it's embedded there. It's what sets the story in motion, and without it, the plot just wouldn't work. So it could have been a secret formula, could have been a stolen government plan, could have been a briefcase, could have been Cary Grant's broken leg and rear window. You know, if you've seen the 39 steps, if you've seen North by Northwest, you've encountered a MacGuffin. But it doesn't matter what it was, because it's never actually fully revealed. What matters is how the characters connect to it, how the audience start caring about it. It's invisible. It's an invisible character in the plot. But it's the device that moves the whole story forward. So let's think about heritage and the MacGuffin, okay, especially intangible heritage. Because it's my belief and my practice that heritage is our hidden MacGuffin. Okay, clearly in our world, certainly in my world, it is significant. But it's so often overlooked, and it's seen as a constraint. I've worked on many local plans, and I've heard it as a constraint, and it's not seen as an enabler, and it can be. So when we listen to the stories of place, we start to uncover answers to big questions in urban design. We know that those answers align to the three core principles of this group: healthy, humanised, and harmonised. So let's just put your Trinity on here. There we go. Oops, didn't go too far. Okay, so looking at these with heritage, look, this is really simple. A healthy place is not just about physical well-being. A healthy place is about mental and social well-being. We all know that. And heritage plays a really crucial role in that, because it can shape walkable streets, it fosters social cohesion, and it gives people a sense of identity and belonging. They just connect with it. So when we listen to the stories embedded in place, we uncover ways to design for well-being and not just infrastructure. Who knew? A humanised place is one that is meaningful. Heritage is essential here. People do not connect to one-size-fits-all repetitive boxes in fields. They connect with places with stories, traditions, and cultural touchpoints. Humanising design means understanding what is significant to a community and ensuring that heritage is not lost in the process. That is what I do. It must be woven through. And a harmonised place, well, showstopper. Heritage is not about freezing a moment in time. You know, constructive conservation is about managing change and maintaining what is significant. It is not preservation, and nor is it restoration. When we integrate heritage, we can create places that are layered and resilient and adaptable. So I am now already lobbying. He doesn't know I'm doing this, by the way. I'm lobbying for a fourth H, one that runs right through all of these, and that's heritage, because I've got the clicker and no one remembers a well-behaved panel member. So just want to bring it to the whole. You know, in the tapestry of our global environment, heritage really is the unbreakable thread. Okay, it weaves through past, present, and future. And it supports and propels the other H's. I'm not dismissing them, but it's integral to it, because it connects people to their environment. But it helps us all in our individual processes and our respective disciplines, and I get that. It is an educator, and it guides us collectively to make meaningful, sustainable change. But just like the MacGuffin in Hitchcock films, heritage might be, not be rather, the obvious focus of a project, and I know that. But without it, we drop the loop to the thread that pulls together the social cohesion, the connection, and the meaning. The best part is that it affects everybody in the plot. And a historian might see the importance of a local tradition or a building. An architect might be excited about a material innovation. A planner might see how heritage can help with sustainable development. A developer might see how heritage can bring a sense of place that creates greater land value and greater commercial value, rather. The more disciplines we bring together, the more we'll benefit. And it starts like, how do we do this, okay? Well, it starts by really, really listening to the stories and souls of a place, and not just the well-documented ones. I mean the local and the lived ones, and the ones that hold meaning for communities. That is my experience. So this is not just about designated heritage assets or a certain chapter in the National Planning Policy Framework. When we go wider, when we really listen, we create healthy, humanised and harmonised places grounded in heritage. Heritage is so much more than the past. And just like in a Hitchcock film, the MacGuffin might not be the final destination, but without it, we wouldn't know where to begin. So as you leave here today, but please not quite yet because Max is up, please may I ask two things of you. Could you get involved in this group, this collective? Because it really doesn't matter what your respective discipline is or what your level of experience is. It's only collectively that we can make change and learn from each other. And finally, could you go and find the MacGuffin in your projects and let me know if I'm right? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paulette. Next we have Max Farrell, founder and CEO of London Collective, a network of built environment specialists fighting to improve people's lives and the planet's prospect. Nice.
Thanks, Silviu, and good afternoon, everybody. I've got some slides here. Let's see if they'll come up. What do I need to do? It's going the wrong way. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, my name's Max Farrell. I'm the founder and chief exec of an organisation called the LDN Collective, and we came together as a group about 5 years ago, and it was largely to try and find a new way of collaborating between different built environment specialists in order to address what we saw as the biggest challenges of our times in terms of social issues that we're all facing, the housing crisis, deepening inequalities, as well as the environmental challenges that we're all facing in terms of climate change and the need to have a more radical approach. But also within the built environment, I always thought it was very interesting that especially you mentioned about film and the analogy of film, because when I first came up with the concept of the collective, it was really looking at how in film you do have these casts and crews that come together on a project by project basis, and often they are SMEs or individuals who come together in a way that doesn't happen in the built environment. Historically, within the built environment, if you want a multidisciplinary offer, you would tend to have to go to these big corporations which have tens of thousands of staff, like the Arcadis and AECOM and Arups of this world. They all seem to begin with A for some reason, but and there wasn't that sort of bottom-up network that enabled smaller businesses or individuals to connect and have a platform to share and also to develop business and work on projects together. So the thing that I think is the thing that binds us, I'm just going to give up on that, I think. Okay, thanks. Is a set, there we go, yeah, a set of values. And this is about being collaborative and the diversity within the group is not just in terms of our specialism. So we have different types of architects, different types of engineers, landscape designers, and other more sort of niche specialists, but also about diversity and representing the sort of diverse demographics of most cities, especially London, the thing that I think gives it its unique value, and also agreeing to act beyond profit. And a lot of the projects we do start out sometimes as voluntary initiatives, but often because they get traction and they're about the idea rather than being commissioned to do something, they often lead on to other more interesting things that can pay the bills, because ultimately that is an important part of anyone who's in a business, is to remain sustainable from that point of view too. In terms of our approach, it's about being very cost effective, because when you're a group of business owners, you can act more quickly and in a more agile way, but also having a more holistic approach. When I first put these slides together, I didn't realize how long we had. So I did 12 slides, and now then was told I had 6 minutes. So it's going to be, I'm trying to do 30 seconds of slides, so you have to bear with me. But and I've just taken up 30 seconds telling you that. But we have 3 different sort of types of areas of work that we've started to gravitate towards, and these sort of constellations of specialisms. Placemaking and urban design, I think many people are familiar with in terms of the core disciplines of planning, architecture, landscape, and then things like quantity surveying and project management that you need in order to become a sort of a one-stop shop, as it were. Branding and communications, we have people that are very good at doing branding, not just for companies, but also for places, and increasingly that's becoming important, a place really defining its identity through its brand, and people are recognizing the value of that. And then communications, and we have get involved in a lot of communications campaigns, and I will show you a few projects in a minute just to give you a flavor, or what was your term, an amuse-bouche of some things that we're involved in case it leads on to interest in sort of in joining the group and sort of exploring these things further. And finally, this sort of relatively new area that's become increasingly important within the built environment in terms of projects, that was always a bit of an afterthought, but now the social value, community engagement is something that's really front and center, which is great, and we have a whole team that do that. That's workshop there for the City of London. We did a whole series of workshops for them around their new local plan, trying to understand what people thought about different topics, but also different parts of the city, and we're doing that increasingly on all the projects we're involved in, really. And so just to show you, I think 3 projects at different scales that we're involved in. So this is for a new garden community. So this is large scale, and it's great to see that the new government is definitely thinking along these lines with a task force identifying new towns as we speak. We've been involved in this for several years now, and it's working our way through the local plan review process. And the idea is to have create a new settlement west of Peterborough, which is providing much needed housing of different tenures, 4,500 homes. But critically, it's employment led. And actually that is a lot of the new towns and garden towns last century were all about creating employment opportunities and then supporting that with places for people to live. So we have a client, we're very lucky actually, we have a client who already invests in a lot of green technology and manufacturing businesses like solar power, electric charging, and retrofit. And they are looking to create a hub with links to the university where these types of industries can have somewhere where there can be an ecosystem for them to co-locate. So it's an exciting project, but it's also quite a daunting one in terms of how do you create a plan for an entirely new town, market town essentially, on what is currently low quality agricultural land. And the interesting thing about that is we are massively increasing the biodiversity. Obviously the big issue around the environmental impact is around the embodied carbon, and we're working really hard to see how we can minimize the impact of having to build new roads and new homes, but in a way that is sustainable, increasingly encouraging active travel, people walking and cycling more. And the fact we have a secondary school helps with that, because most of people's trips are either going to school or going to work. So we have an employment hub, we have schools, and we have a high street and a town centre, leisure, culture, everything that people expect from an existing town, which is hard to plan from new. But luckily we have a client that isn't just a house builder, because often that's where it goes wrong. Don't quote me on that. And just kind of going back to a more sort of urban regeneration scheme that we've been working on. And again, this was one of those sort of voluntary initiatives that we started thinking about. You see in the top left is a picture taken of what the Royal Docks looks like today. And it's a huge expanse of water. I think from one end where the mayor's office has now moved to the other end where there's the University of East London, is something like 4 kilometres in length. And just to give you a sense of that in terms of scale, that's the equivalent, and you can walk all the way along it, that's quite a narrow promenade there. It's the equivalent of walking from Oxford Circus to Old Street. And if you think about, if you were to walk from Oxford Circus to Old Street, how much stuff you would walk past in terms of shops, offices, libraries, pocket parks. Here, there's very, very little. You've got Excel in the middle of it, and not much else, to be honest. So what we were thinking is, how can you, first of all, upgrade the existing public realm? You know, we looked at widening the boulevard. How do you pay for that? And that's the interesting thing about the RSA, and people don't often refer to, is it is arts, manufacturing and commerce as well. So it is already an institution that thinks about these things. How do you fund things? How do you make them financially viable? How do you manufacture things? And we'll come on to some modern methods of construction in a minute. But the idea was to have floating units that would have some commercial uses with revenue to pay for all this public realm, and then some public amenity, pocket parks, eventscapes and play hubs. And all of these we designed to be modular, that could be moved and could even become grandstands with seating if you were to have big events there. This is a scheme that we launched earlier this week with Waits, who are the largest family-owned developer and contractor in the country. And quite brilliantly, they've got together, their family are all on the board of Waits, and they said, we need to do something about this temporary accommodation crisis that we have at the moment. I mean, I think most people are now familiar with all the statistics. Something like over 200,000 families in London living in bedsits or hotel rooms, totally unsuitable accommodation, 150,000 children, which is the equivalent of one in every classroom, or the population of Cambridge, are children growing up in bedsits, never knowing whether they have to move out the next morning. So, you know, Waits have been working on modular housing that can be built very quickly, that's high quality, that's for families, that crucially can be moved. So we've just put in planning for our first site in Havering with these modules on a site that nothing permanent will come forward for several years. So we've just put in planning. We can have them built and delivered and installed within a few months, and that means families can move out of these B&Bs. They're not as big as a final home, but they're a transitional housing option. And I think again, they're sort of the arts, manufacturing, and commerce all come into play into how we make this viable. That's some photos of the module. Our launch was in the building centre in Store Street, the Crescent, if any of you know it, off Tottenham Court Road. You can still go there, I think, till the end of next week. We installed this module outside. From the day we'd started designing it, it was 2 months to the day it was installed. And we got the Deputy Mayor for Housing there, London Boroughs said, we've done this. This is a high quality home for families. Why can't we do this? And really the issue is around planning. And what we're asking for is a new class of permitted development, like they had for the Nightingale hospitals during COVID, to streamline fast-track planning. And we'll be talking to the RTPI and others about that in due course, but time's been taken up building the module. Finally, just a report we just published recently about net zero neighbourhoods. And this is about sort of decentralised community scale energy projects. And we have 10 case studies from around the world. and what it took to bring them forward, the types of collaboration between public sector, private sector, and the outcomes in terms of whether it was solar or capturing waste heat from data centers or what have you. So I hope I've managed to stick to time. I'm not sure, but that's a sort of a bit of a canter through who we are as a group. There's some members here. I see Stuart, Alex, and Elizabeth there, and some online. So yeah, it's great. I love networks and I love systems thinking, and this is the merging of different networks is a good thing in my view. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Max. I'm delighted to introduce our keynote speaker, Helen Fadipe, the RTPI president for 2025, promoting the 3 core themes for her tenure: collaboration, investment, and inclusivity. Helen Fadipe is Managing Director of Planning Consultancy firm FPP Associates and the founder and chair of the BAME Planners Network. The Royal Town Planning Institute is the professional body representing planners in the UK and Ireland, founded in 1914, promoting and developing policy affecting planning and the built environment. Helen, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And I'm very, very honored to be here this afternoon. I don't know if I've got my mic on. It doesn't look like.
Try this
Sorry,
one.
my voice is okay.
Oh, I think if you move, I think it is on. Yeah, yeah. You
On?
just need to
All
move
right,
it a bit.
Yeah, right. Okay. So hopefully you cannot hear me. Yeah. It does.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to address this audience, and also for the launch of the Royal Society of Arts, Architecture and Planning Forum. And of course, it's a privilege to be amongst other professionals from across the built environment. So my talk is more about my themes and how this forum is really, really timely. It is for such a time as this because it ties in very neatly with my core themes for the year. I would like to start by saying thank you to Silvia, I'm not quite sure if I pronounce it right, and the organizers for giving me the opportunity to address you today. You've already been told that I'm Helen Fadipe. I'm the 111th president of the Royal Town Planning Institute. I'm the 12th female president. Of course, in the past few years, we've had 2 or 3 females, one after the other. So it might look like, oh, wow, a lot of women are coming forward. Actually, I'm the 12th in over 110 years. So I think it's a big shout out for diversity and inclusion. At the RTPI, we advocate for the critical role of planning in building sustainable, resilient, and inclusive places. And of course, we know that planners, we work across the intersection of policy, development, public life, and we also ensure that communities thrive. That's very important to planning. Investment is directed strategically, and future challenges are met with foresight and innovation. As has been stated, I want to share with you my core themes. And those core themes are championing collaboration and investment. So I want to champion collaboration, investment, and inclusivity for a resilient planning profession. And if we take this into this forum, then for a resilient built environment. Each of these pillars, they reinforce the other. Collaboration leads to shared knowledge and more efficient solutions. Investment in skills and innovation ensures that our efforts are sustainable and forward-thinking. Inclusivity ensures that every voice is heard, creating spaces that reflect the diversity of our society. Without one, the other cannot thrive. It is through this holistic approach that we can strengthen our industry and make lasting, impactful change. I mentioned earlier about the timeliness of this particular launch. It's come at a critical point for our industry. We are navigating complex, uncertain world. Not only the climate challenges, economic shifts, but also political shifts. Even in England, internationally, there is evolving society expectation. And if we, as a body of professionals, built environments, not just the RTPI, RSA, RIBA, and all of that, there is an urgent need for intentional and focused dialogue between the key professions that shape our built environment. My voice was okay this morning until I sat in an air-conditioned place for a few hours. So, it's more or less dried out. So please, just bear with me. Hopefully, it will become undry. But right now, I have very, very dry throat because of the AC. They're wonderful, yeah, but not all of us cope with them. So please, my apologies. Just bear with me for my dryness, or for the dry tone. So this forum provides a much-needed space for architects, planners, policymakers, landscapers, everyone who works within the built environment to come together and exploit shared priorities. Too often, conversations happens in silos, and yet the success of planning and architecture is inherently interconnected. The decisions we make today, whether land use, urban design, sustainability, infrastructure investment, heritage, will define the quality of life for future generations. We are sitting in a building that was designed and built way, way before any of us in this room were born. And so one day, the future generations will likewise live in cities, in towns, in villages that we in this room design and build. So by establishing this forum, we have an opportunity to engage in a structured and forward-thinking discussion. We have the opportunity to exchange ideas, to advocate for policies, to improve our practices, to ensure that we foster sustainable, resilient, and inclusive development. It is an opportunity to go beyond traditional collaboration. And it's an opportunity to build a cohesive, strategic, and solutions-oriented approach to the challenges facing the built environment. At the heart of this initiative, because I've spoken to you briefly, and so I know what's on your heart, is a commitment to breaking down barriers, to fostering innovation, and ensuring that our professions work in alignment rather than competition. By working together, we can influence policy, we can secure investments, we can create places that are not only well designed, but also sociable, equitable, and environmentally sustainable. We all know, going to planning school, architecture school, that collaboration has always been central to what we do. Everyone in the built environment, at one point or the other, we coexist, we collaborate, and we meet to ensure that whatever we are planning or designing works. So the complexity of modern challenges, which I've mentioned earlier, including social equity, so I'm quite happy that you brought that up on your slide, requires a multidisciplinary collective approach. And again, thank you, Mark, for setting up the LDN, because we need a collective approach. We need more people to work together. And so we need to work together to create a built environment that is resilient, inclusive, and sustainable. However, collaboration must be intentional. It must be strategic, and it must be effective. This means that we have to strengthen existing partnerships. We have to forge new ones where all built environment professionals are seen as equal contributors. And we need to shift from competing disciplines to interdependent professions that work towards shared goals. Changing the negative narrative surrounding planners is one of the key items I'm pursuing this year. And we all know that the planning profession is essential if we are to elevate its role in shaping sustainable, inclusive, and resilient communities. Too often, planning is perceived as bureaucratic, slow, or obstructive, rather than as a vital enabler of development, social equity, and environmental stewardship. As built environment professionals, we must take ownership of this narrative by using our collective voices to champion the value of all disciplines, fostering a culture of mutual respect and collaboration, meaning there is no discipline that's more superior than the other. Rather than working in silos, we should present a unified, solution-driven voice that highlights the positive impact of planning, architecture, engineering, landscape, all the disciplines. I can go on and list them all. By advocating for the critical role we as an industry play in delivering better places and demonstrating the tangible benefits of well-planned communities, we can begin to shift public and political perceptions. Respect for each other's professional contribution should be at the core of our dialogue, and that's one of my asks this afternoon. We need to ensure that we are all seen as partners in progress rather than obstacles to change. Which means that when we go to planning department in local authority, that we don't come out of those meetings screaming, I'm not going to even say the words, about those planners. We are all working together for the benefits of current and future communities. So we need to do that. And I would like to just give you some insights into what the RTPI is doing in terms of collaboration. The RTPI is working alongside other professional institutes. Oftentimes, I refer to them as sister institutes. And if it's a man, we say, no, they're brother institute. But it doesn't matter whether they're brothers or sisters, but they are our, people we are working with. And we are actively working with those institutes to address some of the pressing challenges facing the built environment. A key example of this joint working is the stand that the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyor RICS and the RTPI, we are taking a stand at the UK Reef in May. So this is being done jointly, and please, if you are going to be attending, do drop by and visit that stand. It's not just for RICS or for RTPI, it's for all of us in the built environment. So please engage with that stand and do follow on with any posting on UK Reef, and please just hashtag built environment so that people know that we are one and we are unified. This shared presence at UK Reef reflects our commitment to tackling issues collectively. And I've already talked about encouraging everyone to totally stand and to join the conversation. The other key thing that the RTPI is doing in terms of collaboration is also working with other institutes on equality, diversity, and inclusion. And I think it's called BE, that's Built Environment Inclusive. And that's been going on for a few years now. So if your professional body is not part of that, please encourage them to be involved. Additionally, the RTPI fosters two collaborative working initiatives. So all the presidents of the built environment, once a year, as the president, I host everyone to a dinner where we talk about the issues facing the built environment and we look for solutions. Likewise, the chief executive of the RTPI hosts the dinner, inviting all the chief executives of the professional bodies in the built environment. And we also have different avenues in which we collaborate. So those are some examples of how the RTPI collaborates. However, at the professional levels, that's you and I, on the forefront, delivering services, we need much more. And that's why this particular forum is a great avenue. I'm going to move on now to the second pillar of my presidential theme, and that's investments. Investment in planning and the built environment is an investment in the future. And it does not just mean financial resources, it means investment in education, skills, and professional development. To remain competitive and relevant, we must ensure that professionals in the built environment have access to continuous learning opportunities. And that's why the RTPI launched an online mentoring platform in January. At this stage, all we are looking for are for mentors to sign on. So again, I should have asked, but at this moment, I just say, if you're a chartered town planner, please sign on. But I will ask and get back to you if other professionals can sign on to mentor, some planners. I really don't have that answer. But anyway, so my call out is to those who are members of the RTPI. I also want to encourage everyone that is in this room, please, if you are experienced, share your experience and knowledge through mentorship. I benefited from that in the early years of my planning career, which I started in 1990 in East Linton Council. I'm going to now conclude on investment and move on to the last pillar. So another ask is that we collectively must and should advocate for fair pay. I know that some of our colleagues in some industry, there is that dichotomy in pay. I'm not going to mention which of the sectors, but we all know which sector we work in. We should begin to advocate for a fair pay. Whether architects, planners, engineers, we should be serious about fair pay, better working conditions, and stronger career pathways. And it's important if we want to attract the best minds to the built environment sector. We must ensure that they feel valued and supported. The third pillar I want to speak about, I know that time is fast gone, but hopefully I'm still within my 10 minutes, but if not, my apologies, is a resilient built environment must be inclusive, diverse, and representative of the communities that we serve. We plan better when we embrace diverse perspective and ensure that all voices are heard. Inclusivity is not just about numbers. It's not about how many women in the room, how many men in the room, how many people with physical disabilities, XYZ. It's about creating an environment where professionals from all backgrounds feel welcome, respected, and empowered. During my presidency, working alongside the RTPI executive, I will advocate for and collaborate with other built professionals, as well as diversity and inclusion networks. One of the key things I want to do this year is to campaign for active steps to break down barriers to entry and retention, particularly for underrepresented groups, ensuring that the built environment sector becomes truly reflective of the communities we serve. And that is why the RTPI will continue to work with employers through the inclusive framework to ensure we can create those spaces that will enable diverse professionals to thrive. And so I would encourage anyone who wants to join that framework. It's open to all employers. So if you want, if you have a company, you can join that framework. It doesn't have to be the organization like Rebar or RICS, anyone can. So please join that framework. It's on our website. And so I'm going to be making a call to action. And the call is for us to shape a shared future. And as we launched, I'm using the collective we, launched the Royal Society of Arts Architecture and Planning Forum, we have a unique opportunity to set the agenda for the future. We must champion collaboration, investments, and inclusivity, not just in words, but in action. Let us build stronger partnerships between all professions within the built environment to deliver better places. Let us advocate for investments in education, skills, and professional development to ensure our professions remain robust and future ready. Let us create an inclusive sector where talent from all backgrounds is nurtured, valued, and empowered to shape the world. This forum is more than just an event, and that's my belief and my hope, that it is the beginning of a new era of collaboration and thought leadership. Together, we have the power to shape the next era of the built environment. So let us seize this opportunity. Let's break down silos. Let's create a legacy of resilience, sustainability, and collaboration. And finally, this is our moment. This is our time. And let's make it count. So thank you for listening to me. And I hope that we will all go away and we will all see ourselves as one built environment, working together collectively for a better future. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Very wise words, and we are honored to have you here. And for our next speaker, Jenny Andersson, she's the founder of the Really Regenerative CIC, seeking to realign human economic and cultural system to those principles of fractal potential of place as a critical node in transforming economy, ecology, and culture towards regenerative futures. Thank you, Jenny, for joining us.
I'm going to go relatively fast because I think we're going to be thrown out of this room at 2 o'clock. So forgive me if I go far too fast and I don't make a huge amount of sense. I'm a little bit high on Nurofen because I have a violent toothache at the moment. So I apologise to myself in advance if I don't make a lot of sense. I just want to check that the people online on Zoom can hear, because I noticed comments that this microphone was quite quiet. Is that... Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to throw me that one?
Okay.
Yeah.
Use that one.
So okay, now I'm going to have to be really ambidextrous. I'm going to have to talk, press the clicker, and make sense at the same time. So my name is Jenny Andersson. As you've just been told, I'm the founder of a community interest company called Really Regenerative. Not because we are really regenerative, because we are always asking the question, is this really regenerative? So we were founded to support the emergence of regenerative futures, which is really harmonizing human, economic, and cultural systems with the principles that living systems have used for 3.8 billion years to create the conditions conducive to life. Oh, no, that's not working. Clicker's not working. Okay, hang on a second. Next slide. This one? Okay. You might not be able to see that. That is a drawing by one of our beautiful artists, Jodie Harbert. So we do our work in 3 different areas. We do our work through education, learning and development journeys, like our signature learning journey, Power of Place, which is a 9-month deep dive into regenerative design and culture. This year's cohort starts on the 20th of March, and we still have a few places if anyone would like to join, so that's enough of that. Where we do have a long-term deep dive into the principles and intensives, often based in the UK, but also Mallorca. Some of you may recognise Daniel Christian Wahl in the right-hand side, who the author of Designing Regenerative Cultures, who joins us. We also do our work through place-based projects, our own that we create, and in partnership with other organisations such as Doncaster City Council, that is looking to make a significant shift to being a city of learning in the future, and also within the EU, where we've recently spent 2 years in the new European Bauhaus programme on a project called Desire that was looking at how to create irresistible circular societies in 8 different sites in 6 different cities across Europe. We also partner with, sorry, that's not where it's supposed to be. We also partner with developers and municipalities to uplift the evolutionary story of place so that design in the built environment can activate a process of evolution. So that's enough about us. I want to zoom out, as many of the panelists did, to thinking about the context in which we are shaping this new group. And the context is that we are on a planet that has already exceeded 7 out of 9 of our planetary boundaries, putting our life support systems at risk. Most of us and many of the panelist members have alluded to it. We are in an incredibly turbulent time for economics. Our economic systems are breaking down. Our social support systems that most of us have relied on all our lives are creaking at the seams, and the political environment is becoming increasingly turbulent. So we believe we are in a seminal time for the human species and human system, that it's almost a once in centuries leap from a way in which we have thought about how to design human economic and cultural systems to realign them to living systems principles. But that is a significant leap in the way in which we think. And I wonder if a question for us in this group as we go forward, and maybe our quest, is to ask ourselves, what could the role of this group, but also what could the role of architecture and urban evolution, which is my current name for planning, do to accelerate this shift? I think most of us would recognise that across the pond we're sliding back down into the red in terms of where systems thinking and activities is going. So what could this group do? What could the built environment be part of in accelerating a movement to more regenerative futures so that the built environment plays a role in this enormous transition that we are part of? One of the pieces of research we did in the Desire project looked at simple thing, the carbon impact of new build houses. And what we worked out by taking average statistics of a new build home was that if we wanted to achieve the 1.5 degree target, and we all know we're zooming past that at great speed, that on the average emissions of building a new house, that the whole of Europe could build no more than 300,000 houses a year, and that's the target in the UK alone. So without looking at transport, at energy, at food systems, the built environment in Europe just on homes is crashing across the potential to keep us within 1.5 degrees. So this transition is really huge, and it is much more enormous than we think it is. So I wonder what role in this group we could play in really situating the built environment in that enormous transition. Another thing that I would like to share with you is that living systems are connected, dynamic, relational, and interdependent. And one of the things that we could think about in our built environment design is that every single project that we design is nested in a place and is nested in a system. We were working with Portsmouth City Council some years ago, who'd acquired a piece of land on which they could meet their built environment targets of homes right in the centre of the harbour. And make it modular, circular, car-free, curb-free, all wonderful things. But one of the things that we try to do is say, in the context of Portsmouth, in the context of history, what are the patterns that this project could disrupt in order to accelerate a new and different story for Portsmouth? And one of the things that you could see in Portsmouth is that over thousands and thousands of years, there have been patterns of movement from north to the south, even in the Ice Age, which shaped the dendritic area of Portsmouth, but that those patterns have followed culture and economy for hundreds of years. Portsmouth has been a place that has always exported, looked outwards, exported power over. Our navy is based there. Our naval power goes outwards into the world. It was one of the places from which we exported colonialism. Those patterns had actually also, when we looked at the culture of Portsmouth, the culture of Portsmouth was very depleted. The centre of the ecosystems were very depleted. So we put an idea to the developers that in addition to being curb-free, car-free, that this development could have a purpose of changing the direction of culture and being all about power with and connected and supporting the culture of Portsmouth to work on the ecology of the harbour, to work on the culture of Portsmouth. And I think that that is something that we can aspire to with almost every project that we work on. I can't go backwards with this. I'll just finish on this one because we are running out of time. This is a really inspiring project in Arles in France. If none of you have ever visited, I really encourage you to do it. And it's a project that really runs true to both bioregional and living systems principles. There was a very large piece of land in the centre of Arles where railway engines had been built, huge old Victorian architecture that was running derelict. And a philanthropist who'd made all of her money in Roche Pharmaceuticals purchased it, and for the last 10 years it has been an innovative experiment in the development of biomaterials-based economy. It has had artists and practitioners and people from the built environment come from all over the world to experiment with what it takes in place to shift an economy that was poor, not doing very well, to a positive impact biomaterials-based economy for the built environment. And these are the kind of projects I think that within this group we could aspire to lift up, that change and transform the systems that we live and work in. And I'm going to stop now because I have 101 slides because I thought it was 17 minutes, not 7.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Thank you very much, everyone. So as a closing to this, I wanted to go a bit through why are we even planning? Why are we doing that in general? I think that we're planning to transfer from the existing situation to an ideal future. And what we usually do for that is we analyze, plan, and act. However, 97% of the planning departments have skill gaps and is not a linear process, as probably many of you know. And there are always barriers and many unknowns. So what will happen if we combine collaboration across multiple silos with wearable data, with satellites, with AI, and a strong drive to regenerate places? It's something that we like to call symbiotic wisdom. And what that looks like is having people coming with ideas and initiatives that go beyond any technology possible. And by augmenting them with information from satellites, information from AI that is reliable and easy to understand, they can have the awareness to analyze places much faster. And there are some projects done with many fellows that are in the room, like such as Dr. Stephen Law, Cesar Rujan, Daniel Kostash as well. we have those projects that when collaborating with the RSA and other fellows, we created some some incredible case studies, and some of them were being able to monitor the 11 core cities in the UK to see how they evolved in the last 33 years. And if we are able to monitor cities in the same way we'll monitor a patient, you can replicate those kind of treatments. You can focus on not only how planners, architects, and other specialists can improve the environment, but also how the general public can plant trees, can improve the mobility, can improve the community feeling by giving them something that's very simple to use and understand. The idea about all those technologies, and here we had partners from Mind as well as InnovaSpace, is bringing not only planning and architecture professions together, but also bringing understanding from neuroscience, from medicine, from space tech. So creating great places is not a mission for a small range of expertise or of experts as well, but it's a mission that everyone can take responsibility and everyone can make something about it. So there are other technologies such as Q-Field from Spectrum Blue to enable self-cleaning spaces and other technologies that are completely invisible. And in the spirit of the Crystal Palace, we really wish this group to start talking to each other and discover those new materials, new technologies, new practices, new case studies and stories that can be replicated around the world. Thank you very much, everyone. And if you're a fellow, you can join already this group. If not, let me know and I'll nominate you. Thank you.